I've been asked to talk about the concept of economicide and economic others that I have developed and used in my book, and about how corporate business interests are taking over some of our public spaces, making our public decisions. I appreciate the premise that yes, there is enough economic prowess in this country, but poor people are not able to participate in that. They are eliminated from enough by some public decisions that we make that eliminate them from the community. I use the concept of economicide drawing on the definition of genocide that came from the Raphael Lemkin, the Polish Holocaust survivor who actually defined the modern term genocide. And in his work, the concept of genocide was not specifically directed at overall elimination of people, but at people for a particular kind of characteristic, a genus. It might have been religious believers. It certainly was religious believers, Jewish believers in the Holocaust. It could be those who are perhaps felons or aged or disabled, or some group that he referred to as a collectivity. And he used that as the concept of genus, and then used the Latin word side as murder, as elimination. Well, I drew from that for the poor people that I had come to know and love and appreciate, who are include the poor children that we're talking about here, and developed the term economicide, that the genus was poor people, particularly deemed undesirable poor people, and the category of the elimination of them was done by economic means. Literally removing them or erasing them from communities, including removing affordable housing, removing social services, and doing this by an orchestrated plan of action to eliminate them from the community. This meant that the concept of economic others was needing some attention. Certainly children are included in economic others. They're economically poor, and they are deemed in the category deemed undesirable, as are their families, as are people in our neighborhoods. The concept that Robert Reich uses of corporate welfare is certainly an important one that we need to talk about, but it does not include the idea of removing people. It's putting focus on corporations rather than removing or eliminating poor people from our communities. And tragically, this kind of removal of poor people is corporate driven. It is those very corporations who have been designated to be our developers, who've been designated to have all of the authority for making our decisions, on public decisions, on how we use public money, how we use public authority. In our case here in Cincinnati, of the development of Over the Rhine, handed off to the private corporate interest known as 3CDC. It eliminates any of us from the community in the decision making about what we do with our public authority and responsibility. You'll remember we did the Over the Rhine Comprehensive Plan, 2002, developed by a group of dedicated folks from the community, city leaders, experts in planning and development and financing, long attention, hard attention focused on the plan, and it was absolutely eliminated when 3CDC was given full authority as the preferred developer for Over the Rhine. To date, probably approaching 2,000 units of affordable housing have been eliminated from that community. The authority for management of the beloved Washington Park and Fountain Square was handed over to the same authority for 99 years. the decision-making for our public park is now handed over to a private corporate interest designated by the city to make all of the decisions. The decisions fell hard on the community, removing the swimming pool, removing basketball courts from further development, removing and reconfiguring our schools, along with removing our social services. In many ways, this is econicide just in triplicate. The expansion of those private authorities has continued into other communities, and we aren't the only community in the country that's happening, but using the concept of we have enough money. Why would we choose to eliminate our poor people, our economic others, from the community and from being present in our community, existing in our community? At the same time, why have we given our democratic decision-making over to a group of private interests who have no mandate for any recourse or any kind of grievance procedure? The concept of giving our private authority away to corporate interests is certainly a tragedy for poor people, for economic others, but more alarming, it is a tragedy for what it does to our democracy, to our democratic process, to the way we elect to use our public resources, our social obligation to everybody in the community. That's the downside. As we wrestle with the issues of poverty, particularly child poverty, we have some things that we could easily do together to remedy the situation. For example, we could stop fighting over children's services levy money and properly fund the Hamilton County Children's Services. We are the most poorly funded children's services of the 88 counties in Ohio. We could do that immediately. We could immediately restore some requirement that housing developers have a mandate for the proportion of affordable units to be returned to the market. We could figure out what to do about the nearly 1,000 families on the waiting list at Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. The authority has the expertise and the ability to manage that, but we don't have the resources to cover either rental vouchers or rent-assisted units for that number of people on the waiting list. Our shelters, family shelters, house up to 2,000 children a year, and those are not including the ones on the waiting list. So there are many things we could do immediately by adjusting policies, by sharing the enough with everybody in the community, and that includes children.